Hey, what's going on, my fellow idiots? Welcome back to the Approved Cooking. So the other day I was saying to myself that I haven't made hamburger helper in what feels like forever, and I really specifically like the beef stroganoff one. So I figured, hey, I'll make some beef stroganoff for the channel and show you how I would make it. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so let's make some beef stroganoff. Now, in order to make it, you've got to decide on what kind of beef you're going to be using. I'm using 2 good pieces of chuck steak here, but you can use flank steak, skirt steak, and use ground beef, really whatever you want. But whatever you do end up using, you're going to want to cut it up into bite-sized pieces. So I'm cutting my chuck steak up into about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch pieces so that, you could eat it, any piece of it, in one bite. Now, as you can see off to the side, I cut off some of the just pure fat pieces of the steak because there was no real beef attached to it, so I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to fry that up. I'm just going to throw those out. But now that the beef is cut up, let's go into the kitchen and start searing it. So grab yourself a cast iron pan, throw it on a burner, crank the heat to high, and throw on some neutral flavored oil like the avocado oil I'm using, and then let your pan heat up for about 4 or 5 minutes. Once it's sufficiently hot, you're going to start searing your little beef cubes. Now, you don't want to overload your pan, so I'm going to sear them in batches of 3, just because if you overload the pan with the beef, it's just going to release a lot of fluid, a lot of liquid, and you're not going to get a proper sear on your beef. So, split it up. Don't sear it all at one time. And because the beef cubes are pretty small, you really only need to sear them for like 45 seconds to a minute per side. Now, in the far right-hand corner of the screen, I have a pot of water boiling, so I'm going to just throw in a couple pinches of kosher salt, and then I'm going to throw in about 3 cups of spiral pasta to boil. Cook it as per the manufacturer's recommendations, but really you can use whatever kind of pasta you want for this beef stroganoff. And speaking of the beef, back to it now. I finished searing the first batch of it here, so just take it out of the pan and repeat the process. And take care not to overload the pan like I had mentioned before. Now, as you can see, all the beef is done and it looks awesome. It's nice and seared on the outside and it's still a little pink on the inside. That's what I was looking for. But now that the steak cubes are done, let's move on to the vegetables. So I'm going to throw a little bit more avocado oil into my hot pan, and then I'm going to throw in a large red onion diced up into strips. Next in is the mushrooms. I have about 2 cups of thinly sliced cremini mushrooms, so just pour them in, give them a quick mix, and then I'm going to sprinkle a good pinch of kosher salt all over all of these to really encourage the mushrooms and onion to release their moisture. Mushrooms have a ton of moisture in them, and you really don't want that in your end product. So, throw the salt on and then fry these all together for like the next 7 to 10 minutes until they lose their moisture and fry up quite nicely. Now, while the vegetables are frying, let's move back to the pasta. It has cooked, so I'm just going to strain it out here, strain the water out, pour the pasta back into the pot, and then I'm going to just make this a tiny little bit better by adding in 3 tablespoons of salted butter, and I'm just going to mix that around until it melts. The pasta itself with all of the flavors of the beef stroganoff would be good, but I figured buttered noodles would be even better. So now that that's done, let's go back to the vegetables. As you can see here, they've clearly fried up quite nicely, and they're leaving a nice fond on the bottom of the pan. So now that those are cooked, I'm going to add in the garlic. I'm going to use 4 cloves of freshly crushed garlic, so just scrape the leftovers off the mincer and then mix it around in the vegetables, still frying everything on a medium heat for about the next minute. Garlic does not take that long to cook. Now, once the garlic is cooked, I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of dry white wine, specifically Pinot Grigio, and I'm going to deglaze the pan with that. So just pour the wine in and then use your wooden spoon to scrape all the fond off the bottom of the pan. Look at that, look at that. Then I'm going to just let it simmer for like the next 2 to 3 minutes to cook off some of the wine. Once that's done, I'm going to add in 2 cups of beef stock and again mix everything in, and I'm going to let that come to a simmer. It should only take about 3, 4, 5 minutes. Once it does come to a simmer, I'm going to add in a 1/2 cup of sour cream and mix it all together. The sour cream gives the beef stroganoff a nice tang and the creaminess that you expect from your beef stroganoff. So mix that all in, and then I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard and again mix that in. The Dijon just gives the stroganoff a whole nother awesome layer of flavor. So once you mix that in, it's time to start thickening this up. So I have 3 tablespoons of cornstarch with a little bit of hot water. Pour that all in and then just mix it all together and let it simmer for a couple of minutes because cornstarch needs heat in order for it to activate and start thickening everything up. Once the sauce has reached your desired consistency, go get your steak cubes and pour them back into the sauce and stir them all in, and just admire this delicious smelling stroganoff. It's coming together so nicely. We're almost done it. Really, the next step is add in your pasta. Now, some people will just serve the pasta on a plate and pour the stroganoff sauce on top of it. I like to mix the pasta right in. This looks more like hamburger helper to me. Everything is just mixed all together. It's all nice and gooey and thick and just delicious looking. Look at that. Oh man, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Now really all you have to do is taste it and see if you need to add a little bit of salt and pepper. So I am going to add a couple pinches of kosher salt, a couple of twists of freshly ground black pepper, but really that's the end of it. There's your beef stroganoff. So let's go out into the other room and start trying this. So let's give you a close-up shot. Look at those delicious steak cubes, the mushrooms, the onions. So let's pour some into a bowl here. I am excited to try this. It honestly smells so good. All right, and the last thing I'm going to do is throw some chives on top. One, for taste, because chives are awesome, but two, look at the green contrasting with the rest of the colors. It just looks awesome too. So there we go. Let's go in for a taste test. And with the first bite, yeah, it is really good. It was really, really good. It was rich and hearty. The steak was just absolutely amazing, and the sauce was nice and creamy and tangy. It's got a lot of layers of flavor to it. It's got the white wine, it's got the creaminess and the tanginess of the sour cream, and then that tanginess from the Dijon mustard. Everything just goes together really, really well. It is just absolutely so good, and it is really easy to make, so you should make it, because this was an improvement on hamburger helper, let me tell you. But anyways, that is the end of the episode, so I hope you like what you saw here today. If you did, why don't you drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking. We'll see you again soon.